What's up, self-healers? Lisa Lightfeather here. Welcome to my channel, Closing the Gap. We make a conscious effort to meet you where you're at on your healing and your spiritual journey. Today, I want to speak on the topic of spiritual awakenings and the silence of that. Yes? So, some people believe that we only have one spiritual awakening on our journey, but the truth of the matter is that it happens over and over and over again, and you will continue to have spiritual awakenings until you take your final breath. Yes, so it's almost like spirit is working through you in levels, and you need to get to a certain level so that when you take your final breath, that the spirit leaves the body through the crown chakra, that it leaves the body through the crown chakra. Yes. And so in order for that to happen, we have to have spiritual awakenings over and over and over again. But one of the problems is with this is that sometimes while we're going through these spiritual awakenings, we fail to recognize what's happening. Now, some spiritual awakenings can be noisy, hectic, do, right? You're always doing something because you're in this chaotic phase of a spiritual awakening. And then some spiritual awakenings can be the opposite, where it's just silence and stillness and nothingness. Both are just as sacred. Yes? But because we live in a world that gives us these impressions that unless we are constantly accomplishing something, unless we are constantly doing something, unless we are constantly in the rat race of spirituality, right? So we have the rat race in the 3D world where we're trying to climb the ladder and putting our ladder up against the wrong building, getting to the top, realizing that we've had our ladder leaned against the wrong building. And then we have also, that's the 3D spiritual awakening, where it's money and it's possession, it's this material world, right? And then we have the spiritual awakening where it's just nothingness. And so because we are so accustomed to being in the rat race of the 3D or the spiritual awakening that's hectic and everything's moving and we're doing and we're going from retreat to retreat, and we're in our yoga and we're in our meditations and we're in our vegan diets and our raw diets and our pescatarian diets, and we're just doing, that when the time comes that there is a silence and a nothingness, that we don't know what's going on. So I'm here today to assist you in recognizing when the silence and the nothingness is occurring, that more than ever, something is going on. It's a phase of alchemy where spirit is alchemizing you, yeah? Preparing the soil, right? So let's just use the analogy of a car that's full of gas, and it just goes and goes and goes and goes and goes. You fill it back up and it goes and goes and goes and goes and goes. And eventually you need assistance with the fuel, because the fuel filter starts getting dirty and clogged up and things of that sort. And so you put some fuel injector fluid inside the gas tank to reboot it. But before you can put the fuel injector inside the gas tank, the tank has to be empty. It has to be empty. So you have to drive the car until it's on E. And then you put the fuel injector in it. It gives the car new life, new energy, right? And so when we're in these moments of silence, what's happening is the soil is being tilled. The soil is being fertilized. The soil is being lifted up. The fuel injector is being poured into the tank in order for the vehicle to run smoother, to run better, in order for the soil is being fertilized and tilled up in order for the seeds to be planted for something new to grow, right? But these feelings of silence can feel like a lot of things. It can feel like endings. It can feel like you're in limbo. It can feel like a void. It can feel like nothingness. And because we're so used to somethingness, nothingness feels lost. But really what's happening is the Spirit is guiding you to a new north, taking you on a new route. And in order for Spirit to take us on this new level of spirituality, this new route, this new purpose, this new calling, Spirit first has to have us still, to where we're not doing, we're not running, we're not trying to keep up, we're not having fear of being left behind, we're not people pleasing and trying to prove who we are and prove what our purpose is. This is a moment of inner knowing what your purpose is. And it's also a time of seeing what really matters and who really matters and how you play a part in those people who really matter, how you play a part in their lives. So it's important that one realizes that they are not stuck, they are not stagnant, they are not in a void, they are not in limbo, that they are exactly where they're supposed to be. And standing still in that silence is important. It's very important, right? Once you come out on the other side of that silence, there will be a difference in how you live your life. Like before you went into that silence, it's like this place where you're at where you want to be everything for everybody. You want to have a title. You want to be known as a certain thing because that matters. Right? That matters. But when you come to the place of where there's just complete and total silence and stillness and nothingness, it's like you really start to see what really matters. And this is when you are at the peak of your calling. This is when you were at the apex of your calling. Because your calling is still your calling. But when you go to a different level of that calling, it means something else. It means something different. And one has to stay still and be in that something difference. Because what you once did with the feeling of being under pressure and having to do and having to be, now you're just that with your presence, with quietness, with stillness. Now you're that, but you're that on a different level. You're that in a different direction. One thing I've always noticed is that the loudest person in the room is the one who's most afraid. The loudest person in the room is the one with the least amount of confidence. I've learned that on my own journey, and I've learned that from observing other people. Sometimes silence speaks the loudest. Yeah? How one carries themselves in an inner knowing, in a silent confidence. This too is a spiritual awakening. So I just came on today to say that sitting still, being in silence, I want you to have an inner knowing that you are not in some void. The Spirit has not forgot about you, that you are exactly where you're supposed to be. This process takes time. It doesn't happen overnight. You may feel depression, you may feel confusion, you may feel lost, but you are exactly where you are supposed to be. Spirit is shifting you. And anytime there's transition, there's pain. So I encourage you today to take time to sit with where you are as an empty vessel, a hollow bone, And I encourage you to move forward step by step, day by day, in stillness, in quietness, and in inner knowing. That's all I have for you today. Here on Closing the Gap, we make a conscious choice to meet you exactly where you're at on your healing and your spiritual journey. We'll see you next time. Y'all have a good day.